Here are 5 steps to take to start learning sports design today. Step 1 is to get Adobe Photoshop. This is the industry standard software you're gonna see in the majority of sports designs that you're seeing online, on social media. Now, if you're currently a graphic designer designing in some other software, you are gonna have to level up to Photoshop at some point. Doesn't have to be right away, but that's gonna give you the most room to really grow as a sports designer. When it comes to things like lighting, blending, photo composites, blending in multiple images together, and then just general layouts of designs, text effects, different effects you can do to player cutouts, Photoshop is really where everything happens and everything comes together. There are other programs that might specialize in different aspects that Photoshop might not be as strong at, but generally everything you want to accomplish can be accomplished through Photoshop. So once you have Photoshop, step 2 is to just understand the Photoshop basics. Find a video that goes over a basic overview of the different tools, the different ways you can move around Photoshop with layers. You just want to have kind of a baseline comfortability with Photoshop before you get into learning the specific effects that you're going to want to use in sports design specifically. I also have a video that goes over my 5 most used tools within Photoshop, so that'll kind of give you maybe a sports specific lens of what I find myself using more than others, because there's a ton of tools and effects in Photoshop. I by no means know all of them or use all of them, but you'll quickly figure out kind of your go-to tools that you'll find yourself using more often than not. So now you have Photoshop, you have a basic understanding of the different tools, how to move around the program. Now this is when you really want to dial into YouTube, search for those sports design tutorials, and really build up an arsenal of tools and effects that you can pull from. So I really want to emphasize this concept. When you're following along with sports design tutorials, they're gonna throw either a specific effect at you or a variety of effects if you're watching like a step-by-step full poster design. Really take your time to follow that video closely. Have Photoshop open in a separate window and follow along with the YouTuber as they're creating the effect. Always feel free to pause the video, go back. You should really be learning at your own pace. And let's say you just learned a specific lighting effect for a player cutout. Go back to Photoshop later that day or after the video, try to recreate the effect from scratch without referencing that initial video, and then try it again with a different photo, with a different player cutout, and really allow yourself to internalize these specific effects to the point where you have just this massive library built up of different things you know how to do to a player cutout, different treatments you can do to a photo, different ways you know how to blend 2 photos together. Try not to just like go through the motions of replicating everything the YouTuber is saying. Really try to understand what's going into that effect, why they're making the choices they're making, and then how you can later on replicate it just by thinking through the process of creating whatever that effect is. There's obviously a whole world of these different effects that you might incorporate into your sports designs. Go ahead and check out my video on how to search for sports design tutorials. I try to help you on your search for finding these effects, learning them, and then mastering them over time. Our next step is away from YouTube onto other social media platforms like Instagram, Pinterest. Follow other sports designers and make sure you're saving designs for inspiration as you go. This is the best way to get a feel of what types of sports graphics are out there, and then it might inform you of either your next design or just a new effect that you didn't know existed or didn't know was a possibility. I can link some really great sports design accounts in the description of this video. SkullSparks is a great example of an account on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm sure other platforms as well. Really does a great job highlighting all of the great design work happening in college athletics right now. The more you can immerse yourself in this stuff, the quicker you're gonna learn, and the faster you're gonna get a feel for things like composition, typography, just getting a general sense of what types of graphics other people are creating. And if you ever find a cool graphic but don't know how to look up an effect they use and how to recreate that graphic yourself, just hit me up on Instagram, send me the image, happy to weigh in whenever I can. The final step is just to practice a lot. Really put in the time and effort to practice these effects and have something in mind before you open Photoshop. Like, I want to practice lighting today, I want to practice cutting out players, I want to practice arranging players in a composition. You should have some kind of goal in mind to guide your creation and your journey as a sports designer. That will allow you to kind of develop one skill before moving on to the next. And again, the more you immerse yourself in this stuff, the faster your journey is going to be to becoming that elite level sports designer. I think it can be really easy to get lost in especially some of these short form videos that are out there, just like scrolling through quick Photoshop tutorials. Great reminder to really lock in on actually practicing, actually putting in the design time to get better. So those are my 5 big tips, but I've got a bonus one for you. This is away from sports design. Feel free to look into videos, articles, books on general graphic design principles and really try and expose yourself to things like contrast, color theory, composition, typography. These are all like very broad areas within the greater graphic design world. And if you can key in on these different elements, that can help open up your mind towards different design possibilities within sports as well. At one point, I checked out a graphic design book from the library, and I kind of had that guide the sports posters I was making. Like if I was reading a chapter on typography, I was really focused on typography for about a month. If I was reading a chapter on color, then I was just trying to be experimental with colors in my designs. So taking a step back and learning just general graphic design principles can help you kind of open up your world. Thanks as always for watching. If you're new to the channel, I do have a lot of beginner tutorials, advanced tutorials, different step-by-step poster designs as well. Always feel free to reach out to me, by the way, if there's certain things you want to learn that you can't find current videos for. I'm always open to new video ideas, really anything I can do to help.